Hello there, this is ATV Special Edition, and I'm Sintayo Tamrat with this edition. With this edition, I'll just try to see Ethiopia's commitment in commencing its second phase of the Green Legacy Initiative, which still targets planting 20 billion seedlings in the next 4 years. And on the 17th of July, it planted 500 million seedlings. And today I'm just joined here at ETV Langis studio by Dr. Gamado Dale, who is Africa Regional Lead for Forestry and Nature-Based Solution at Global Green Growth Institute, which is based in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. Thank you so much for joining me, and do stay tuned. A very warm welcome to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's just start with your personal experience in planting trees and protecting them, and also just leading those teams, those people who are just professionals engaged in this. And you're leading the National Institute for that, the ministry.
Thank you very much. I was interested in studying medicine from the very beginning, but that didn't happen, and I studied biology for my first degree. That's the starting point professionally. But if you ask me where, I was born in a forest, grew up in a forest, in Garaduro Forest, Nagele RC in West RC zone, and just was herding our livestock in the forest, and also fighting with the bamboos from our field. So that is where I grew. And then for my elementary in the high school, I went to Nagele town. And after that, again, the attachment to the nature was from the very beginning, and I studied biology, did my master's in botanical science with focus on forest ecology. And after that, another turning point for me was we were employed by the GTZ, now GIZ, project based in Ethiopian Biodiversity Institute called Forest Genetic Resource Conservation Project. And we were moving from one corner of Ethiopia to another to conduct forest inventory. Me as a botanist, other colleagues as foresters, we were working together, a team of different professions. And in the field, when you do forest inventory, one of the most demanding, both physically and also professionally, because you have to do inventory scientifically. You have to go wherever the GPS leads you, and I have to mention one person whom I look up as a role model. He's called Matteo Sersado, who is now passed away. During that inventory, I learned much more than the theoretical part in class during my master's. That forestry is a sector that you do by giving your everything into it. And that was a turning point for me. And then everything we have, as a biologist again, I know what we eat, what we drink, everything for our basic survival is coming from biodiversity. Then when you look into forestry, forestry is the source of everything. Then I joined the Ethiopian Biodiversity Institute as head of forestry department and also director general of the institute, and have been leading the sector for relatively 10 years, like as DG for 5 years, director general as 5 years, and forestry department as for 3 years. Those are the times when you really, on daily basis, go to the nature, work in the nature, and learn from nature, and those are the backgrounds that I in my remaining life as well, those are my destinations.
You are in deep love with nature.
Of course. Okay. And that's what everybody should appreciate also, when you really come closer to nature and how nature functions and how nature has been supporting all our basic needs, including ecosystem service like water, clean air, and also fertile soil, agricultural productivity itself. It is wonderful, and so nature means everything for human being, everything. Like, so that's how I got the attachment, and I promise I'll remain in there.
What surprises me again is your brother. I don't know whether he's your elder brother or your smaller little brother. He's also chief environmentalist, just following your footsteps. So who is he, and can you just tell us more about it?
Thank you. Actually, I do not call him by his name. I call him Dada. This is because he is he's my father. It was because of him that I became a person you are looking at today. He was a teacher in one of the primary school, and he took me from rural area to the town and grew up with him. And he's more of community servant. Yes, for record, I have to call him, he's called Dakabodale. His profession was more on the community development, and also he didn't study any forestry or any biology or any natural science. Even he was in the language department. The thing is, he's passionate about nature. And he became even more influential in that, and also in promoting ecotourism, which he done many things, including the Lepes ecotourism village, eco village, and now leading a local NGO called ANSEDA, dedicated to conservation and promotion of natural resources for community livelihood improvement.
So can we say that it is just a sort of genetic quality?
Two of us a bit different. Two of us a bit different in a sense. He was, whenever we give suggestions even, I was something I was surprised. We could be in different places. When a given agenda is under discussion, and the comments we give most of the time are similar. Even that happened this week in different media. When I was on media and he was on another media, but it seems like we were reading from same thing, and that is a big surprise. Academically, he was another role model. He's one of the best performing students, and I followed him. That's how I grew up. But I would say the love for nature is from the very beginning, the way we were raised and the place where we were born and grown. That could be one reason. The other one is both of us share the concern that we are here in this world to serve others and to look for anything better for our local communities and our people.
The 500 million tree plantation is just part of the first episode of the second phase of the Green Legacy Initiative, which targets planting additional 20 billion seedlings. So what do you say on that?
Thank you very much for this question. To begin with, I would like to congratulate the Ethiopian people, Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed and his leadership team for this record-breaking effort, which is highly commended. And I once again congratulate us for this record-breaking effort. And yes, it is an excellent achievement. And the achievement is not only on the number of planted tree seedlings, but also in the coordinated leadership and behavioral change that everybody has done its level best on that single day to make sure that we meet the set target. The starting point is setting the target, which was done by the Prime Minister and his team, and then meeting that target, and the coordination mechanism, the follow-up mechanism is so impressive, and that's very good. And we are so proud that we can do something that others didn't do yet, and we can set that example again, because Ethiopia has been leading by example in many fronts, and this is another front where we continue to lead at least the sub-Saharan and other developing countries by example. Again, this is excellent an initiative, and this initiative should continue. But also we have to bear in mind that when we are setting such targets, where are we going to plant? Do we have set aside land to be used for either reforestation, enrichment plantation, or other type of like commercial plantation? We have to clearly identify those areas where we want to plant these seedlings. On top of that, it has to be well planned, and by identifying which type of species should be planted where, for what purpose. To do so, we have to have baseline data. Do we really have that baseline data that shows, for example, certain areas have been degraded and we need to restore them? Certain species are locally lost, we want to restore them. Or some ecosystem services like water and the clean energy, clean water and the clean air are missing, and we want to restore those services. That needs to be well established through scientific assessment, and the whole effort needs to be also maximize diverse expertise pool, because this is multidisciplinary effort, and it's not only something we have to leave for one sector or one group. It all have to contribute to that. But when it comes to the establishment of baseline data, the identification of right species for right localities, experts in the sector needs to be part of the process, not only for formalities, but from the very basic data generation, analysis, identification of gaps, and also guidance or policy recommendation for the government. Actually, in Ethiopia, we have restoration potential, which was done previously, and we have to make sure all those identified areas to be restored are also properly restored within this schedule or within this plan. What I would like to advise is, let's not rush to plant everywhere everything. We have to be very careful and objective guided, and also demand driven. And as a country, we are wood deficit. We do import many wood products from other countries, from Southeast Asia or others. So if you want to be wood self-sufficient, we need to also plan for plantation forestry, which can be considered as part of this initiative, at least for 7 or 10 years, because the first round or the growth cycle for most most exotic species in tropical ecosystem can range from 7 to 10 years. So at least within this, we can consider them as part of the Green Legacy Initiative. So commercial plantation for addressing domestic needs for wood should also be part of this next plan.
How do you compare the previous tree plantation projects in Ethiopia with the current one?
Thank you very much. The tree planting campaign in Ethiopia started many years back, but let me limit my points to the Ethiopian Millennium. During the Ethiopian Millennium, we all tried to plant 2-3 seedlings per each, which means every Ethiopian was requested to plant 2 trees for the Ethiopian Millennium. And following that, there were many parks being established. And many of those parks are now not there, just to put it. If the initiative was there, the sustainability is a problem. Again, during...
For example, during the Haile Selassie regime, Emperor Haile Selassie, there was such practice. Mm-hmm. So what was just the strengths and weakness there, and also the Derg and as a APRDF?
Okay, let me take. I think during the Haile Selassie, I know the law was strong, even to the extent those who cut some indigenous trees like Hygenia absinica are punished with strong punishment. But what I know very clear and also have read about, and the part of also during my elementary and high school was during the Derg time. During the Derg time, there was large-scale plantation of exotic species, and the focus was on exotic species, planting eucalyptus, planting Cuprous lustanica, or what we call pharangiid, and many other exotics were planted all over the country. China Smole, for example, Treman tree around the roadsides. And overall intention and the overall effort by Derg was, I would say, the best. We can argue on many other issues, but as far as forestry was concerned, the effort being made by the Derg regime was very good and a large scale, at scale. The mistakes or the failures on the Derg side was they were converting high forests into plantation forestry. The intention was excellent. The way it was done was not professional. When we come to the EPRDF regime, I think we all agree and we all remember that our Prime Minister Meles Zenawi was the one who declared Ethiopia will be following the climate resilient green economy strategy as of 2011. He declared that strategy, what we call the CRG strategy, in Durban during the Conference of Parties in South Africa, Durban. So this is now, in the Derg, there was strong institutional and human capacity development, high investment in the sector. When you come to the EPRDF time, the strategy was launched, and all sectors were requested, particularly the CRG implementing sectors, like Ministry of Agriculture, Transport, and Industry, Ministry of Water, and they were requested legally to mainstream the environmental component, which was very good in terms of putting framework in place and also putting the legal implementation arrangements. But the failure was weak in enforcing those legal provisions because law enforcement was not there. Although there is strategy, there was constitutional provision for keeping environment clean and safe and protecting the environment, the forest environment for protection of species as well as ecosystem services, and those come on those fronts. The EPRDF was weak. When we come to the current government, now the institutional part is weak and the law enforcement part is still weak, but what makes the current government exemplary is the commitment by the Prime Minister, which continued for 4 years, and also the commitment of other line ministries in the regional governments where everybody is now paying attention to the tree seedling planting. But if I have to compare the institutional strengths, the law enforcement part with the previous governments, I would say there are issues to be addressed, particularly in terms of institutional capacity development, human capacity development. All in general, when we look at the Ethiopia's effort for the last decades, forestry sector was kind of given attention, but again, low in terms of implementations. And for global commitment, we were always leading. That's when we compared our efforts with other countries in terms of global commitment in the leading by example, still Ethiopia has been doing that effectively over years. When it comes to actual implementation at grassroots level in the country, I would say the Derg and the current government are much better.
Well, that's nice. And people just argue that this trend, the Ethiopian Green Legacy Initiative, should be shared by other African countries, maybe just throughout the continent. And with the new prudent approach of Kenyan President William Ruto, is there just any possibility that this Green Legacy Initiative of Ethiopia will take a regional shape?
Yes, this has to be seen in the context of the interdependency we have with other countries. For example, we are dependent on the Congo Basin forest for getting rain in Ethiopia. So, one. The other one is we share boundaries with many countries. If we are not planning for transboundary development, whatever we do here will be having leakage effect in other countries, and our efforts will not bear sustainable fruit. So to achieve what we want to achieve, and also to make our region, particularly the Horn of Africa, a peaceful, green, and a region where the livelihood of people are improved, the transboundary approach and the regional collaboration is a must. And I think in the political platform they are doing on that. But that has to be also translated into action in the economic aspects as well as in the environmental protection, because to maintain peace, environmental protection is critical, because most of the conflicts are arising from natural resource utilization. If we want to minimize or avoid any conflict arising from that, the transboundary approach, the collaboration across the borders, and ensuring that we grow together and they prosper together is the only way out. To do that, we can look at the approach member countries are using. To be effective on that, then the leadership being taken by the Ethiopian government is very good. That can be easily expanded. But, for example, if we are approaching to Djibouti or to Sudan or other Somalia, for example, Ethiopia needs to identify which type of species are suitable and address the needs and the priorities of those governments, because the highland species will not be suitable for them, and if we are providing them those types of seedlings, it doesn't make any sense, and it will expose Ethiopia that they are not serious on their science. So my suggestion is we have to carefully identify which type of species can be easily taken up by the local communities, not only by the governments for like symbolical purposes, but for real implementation and planting and witnessing that this is the Ethiopian provision or offer to us, and we are proudly jointly doing this. We have to be locally specific in that species selection and site selection, and also work with the local experts in those assessments, and build on what we have already achieved at home. And I would say if we keep on this effort, one, the global community will strongly support Ethiopia and appreciate the Ethiopian leadership, and Ethiopia will be at the forefront in that leadership politically. Technically, we have to be bold enough to give technical advice to the respective experts from those countries, so that we can again contribute scientifically, and most importantly win the heart of the local communities, where those that will be who will be planting the seedlings and also benefiting out of that. So with those corrections and proper planning, I think the initiative can be regional, if not sub-regional, if not continental.
I personally feel that the Green Legacy Initiative or just any other projects like this should propagate across Africa, because climate change and climate variability are just causing significant consequences on the agricultural production and productivity, and in other sectors as well, for example, in health and so on, because flooding causes huge health issues. So to curb these problems, I think such programs like Green Legacy Initiative should pervade African countries. And what is your message as key chief environmentalist and the person who is just leading in the sector regionally?
My message to the member countries in the region is to collaborate, and to listen to each other and support each other, because we all have some good qualities in terms of or opportunities in terms of contributing positively to the platform. So that's one. Collaboration is very important. The other important part is although those interventions are sustainable and cheap in terms of restoring, the upfront cost is very expensive. So to cover such costs, we cannot have sufficient budget for covering many countries. So pooling resources together and mobilizing financial resources from different sources and having a joint platform for coordination and also bringing on board the private sector and the donor community to support such initiative would be the best way out. And also different platform needs to be established. The starting one should be the political platform, where the Prime Minister of Ethiopia leads or take the leadership, and then the technical wing, where experts from different sectors relevant to this initiative can share their experiences and give the technical advice to the government and also guide the actual operation on the ground. So putting in place coordination, collaboration platform, leading that, and mobilizing financial resources for effective implementation of the initiative is what I would advise our country and also other member countries in the African continent.
It is just about 50 billion trees. That's just gonna sum up Ethiopia's efforts after 3 years from now. So if Ethiopia is just planting some 50 billion tree seedlings including the upcoming 3 or 4 years, then it's gonna cover half of the UN target to plant 100 billion seedlings. If so, what should the global community contribute to Ethiopia's efforts, since Ethiopia is contributing a lot in this regard to the global community?
First, Ethiopia should demonstrate scientifically and objectively that there is a place, there is a gap, there is a need to be addressed, and we have identified type of species to be planted in number, in type, and also areas where they have to be planted, and map them, again scientifically, and show the gap. Look, we have done this much so far. This is the remaining gap. Politically, we are committed to achieve 50 million or 50 billion. To achieve that 50 billion, our efforts so far have covered this much, and this is the remaining gap. Politically, we are on top of that, we are leading. But technically, we need the technology, we need the expertise, and most importantly, we need the financial resources. If we have those important data in place and communicate those to relevant stakeholders, including donors and also governments who have legal obligation to support developing countries to meet the Paris Agreement targets and also other conventions target, then the donor community can easily take it up. But if we just keep on requesting for support and not creating an opportunity for like exploration, I mean investigation, investigation in a positive sense, or demonstrate that it is genuine request based on data and the existing gap, they will give you lip service, but nobody will be part of this initiative. So to convince them and to demonstrate that Ethiopia is walking the talk, is not only preparing very good statements in UN conference halls, but also really doing the real job on the ground, and have done this much, and this is the need, and this is the gap, and you need to fill the gap, and provided that you support us in this context, and also by mobilizing our domestic financial resources, Ethiopia is willing in the community to meet half of the global target. If you produce such argument in logical order with your strong supporting document, sure, the global community will support. And to shortly answer your question, the global community, particularly the developed country members who have legal obligation to support developing countries according to the Paris Agreement, should be willing and proactive in supporting, and also the UN should give special recognition for Ethiopia's effort, because a single country can meet half of the target at the global level, and if Ethiopia can achieve half of that target, then that would be another record setting and also a revolution within the UN system, because they have to rethink their planning. If the countries are committed and if leadership is committed, then a difference can be a different figure, and also
such countries like Ethiopia are supported with technologies, the finance, and other impetus.
They are committed and they have been achieving, so others can learn from Ethiopia, because it's not only getting the financial support, serving as best example, and also setting target that others can follow would make Ethiopia bold and also a country that others can learn from. So this is the opportunity, but as I said, it is very much on our side to get convincing documents which are scientifically acceptable, and that's my...
Dr. Gammadoo Dalle, Africa Regional Lead for Forestry and Nature-Based Solution at the Global Green Growth Institute, which is based in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. I really appreciate for the explanations that you have given us on the Green Legacy Initiative of Ethiopia, the comparison among three regimes, particularly Derg, EPRDF, and the Prosperity Party. Thank you so much for joining ETV Special Edition.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy for contributing, and also thank you for having me.
Dear viewers, this has been the conversation with Dr. Gammadoo Dalle, who is the Africa Regional Lead for Forestry and Nature-Based Solutions at the Global Green Growth Institute, which is based in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. And we talked on the Ethiopian Green Legacy Initiative, particularly the second phase, and also sharing this Green Legacy Initiative across the African continent. Thank you so much for joining me again, and I'm Sintayo Tamrat with this ETV Special Edition. See you another time.